Hi, I'm Kathy Johnson. Welcome to video 58 of 60 of the Harnessing Learning Potential video series. Today is all about ADHD. So whether it's got the H or not, whether it's attention deficit disorder with or without hyperactivity, there's lots you can do beyond drugs. And if you're like me, I'm a mom, I really don't want my children to have to rely on drugs. And so if there's something that I can do to help them, then I'd rather do that. But sometimes people have to have drugs even to get through therapies. I've had a couple students like that, where they needed to be on their drugs in order to get through their therapies, but then they reduced or eliminated the dosages. So where does ADHD come from? Well, it comes from the brain having not developed the ability yet to pay attention. Now there are different kinds of being able to pay attention, so I'm going to go through several things, okay, to tell you like what this particular ADHD looks like and what you can do about it. The very first one is the person who is hypersensitive to sound or sight, like all the things, and they can't pay attention to the teacher because there's so much stuff in the classroom, or they can't pay attention to what the teacher is saying because there's so many noises in the classroom. That can come from a retained moral reflex. We're talking about primitive reflexes here. You can go back into earlier, the earlier videos in this series in order to see what the moral reflex is all about. And I encourage you to do that. Moral reflex is also going to be in play if we see a lot of impulsivity. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit later about what to do about those reflexes, because I've got a few more here. So another one is spinal galant. If someone has retained a spinal galant reflex, they're the kid who might have that racing mind. They can't concentrate on one thing because all these other thoughts come unbidden quickly into their brain, and they can't even pay attention to each of those thoughts because pretty soon something else is coming in. Okay, they can't just relax and concentrate. So they also may have impulsivity. Then we've got STNR. Oh, back to spinal galant. That's also the hyperactive child, the fidgety child, the one who cannot stop moving. It's got the constant motor, okay, going, going, going. Next is the child with the wandering mind. Oh, they're sitting in geometry and they just can't pay attention because it's just not interesting enough, and so their mind will wander. And so it comes from a retained STNR, symmetrical tonic neck reflex. So those are the reflexes, and so in order to find out what you can do about them, I suggest that you look up the Maintaining Brains Everyday DVD. Okay, this is great DVD. You can find it right on my website, www.pyramidofpotential.com. But that's not all that can go wrong. You see, we could have some vision issues. So this is the person who, when they're reading, okay, their eyes are jumping all over the place. And so they aren't just reading from word to word to word. They're going up, they're going down, they're going around. They may have tracking problems. Okay, and so it looks like an ADHD problem because their eyes are constantly moving. They also might not maintain eye contact, so they appear that they're not paying attention. You're talking to them and you're like, look me in the eyes. Well, they might not be able to, okay, because of a vision issue. And by the way, the maintaining eye contact also can be due to a retained moral reflex. It's a vision issue, but it's also from the retained moral reflex. So then we may have auditory processing problems. This is the person who says what all day long. What? They can hear. They actually, some of them have hypersensitive hearing, but even if they don't, They can hear. It's just that what comes in and is processed by the brain is either jumbled up, or parts are missing, or they're hearing the wrong sounds. They can't hear the difference between sounds that are similar. It's very difficult. It looks like they're not paying attention, but it's actually an auditory processing disorder. They may have some cognitive skills issues. First one is low working memory. Okay, so somebody who has low working memory cannot hold a lot of information and manipulate it in their brain. Okay? What can happen is if they're working on something that they're interested in, they really want to do, but it's very taxing on their brain, they might kind of hold it all together, and then their brain kind of gives out, and they get all spacey, and their eyes get glassy, and they don't know what you're talking about. You can talk to them and they're like, huh? Okay, this comes from low working memory, and it's what Mel Levine calls mental fatigue. It looks like an attention issue. It's actually low working memory. And finally, there are people who have slow processing speed because of an immature brain. They can't get their information, okay, quickly from place to place, or from their ears to where they need to process it, or from their eyes to where they have to process it real quickly. So there's the example of this teacher asking question 1 to student 1 who answers question 1. The teacher then asks LD student 2 question 2, and he answers question 1. It happens. Why? Because the student was paying attention to question 1, but he was processing it. So perhaps he has a dominant left ear. The information comes in through his left ear, is processed then directly up here by the right hemisphere. But wait a second, language should be processed over here, so it's got to get all the way over there. And for some people, their brain is immature and doesn't have superhighways. It doesn't have the ability to quickly get over there, okay? So they have slow processing speed. And that may look like poor attention. The teacher's like, yeah, you need to pay attention. So let's back up just a little bit. For auditory processing, you can do reflexes. The spinal gland is where auditory processing is set up. You can pair that with a listening therapy and get very good auditory processing at the end of that. You can work on visual processing. Start off with those reflexes to set up that visual system. But then you can do some visual processing programs. You can find them online, or you can work with somebody doing vision therapy. And then finally, for working memory and processing speed, you can do cognitive skills training. I recommend the Equipping Minds workbook. Or if you've got somebody who needs all of this, you can sign up with the Brain Advancement Team. You can be a parent who's working with a child, or you could be a teacher or a therapist who would like to put these together, okay, and be able to work with many children, okay? This you can find at www.brainadvancementteam.com to locate a coach or become a coach. So these are some great ideas. ADHD does not have to have only one solution, and that be drugs. Thanks.